The air, water, earth, and sun awes us. The four awesome forces of nature can provide 1,000 times more energy than we need. You are also awesome. You and me and all Earthkind are the fifth element. We are literally changing the world. Technology is now harnessing nature's awesome power for electricity, heat, and transportation. And the best news is that the clean energy transition can save us money and create a more prosperous, just, beautiful, and sustainable civilization today.
Well, welcome to the Awesome Earthkind podcast. And if you would, please let folks know who you are, where do you live, and what kind of work you do.
Sure. My name is John Hynds, and I'm with Torii Industries. I live in North Idaho near Sand Point, for those familiar with the Schweitzer ski resort. It's a beautiful area out here. And at Torii, we are in the process of building a company to produce a new water heater, a new type of water heater, which is highly energy efficient. And we're hoping to be very green, not just in the way the operations of the water heater works, but in using a circular economy so that this device should never wind up in a landfill. That's part of our goal, is to make sure that, you know, we do reuse, recycle, and keep the product from, like the other 5,000 water heaters a day, about 80% of them wind up in landfills. It's about that number. It's pretty incredible. So we're trying to make sure that we're not just energy efficient, but that we're long-term efficient.
Outstanding. Well, we're going to talk about the technology in a little bit. And we'd like to start off, we call it with a quantum quote, or an inspirational quote that kind of helps frame people's mindsets about where you're coming from. So you got one you care to share, John?
So, well, there's so many quotes out there. I prefer one from a gentleman by the name of Lou Holtz. For those into football, Lou is a football coach, and he's also a great business leader. And his just three, it's a quote, but it's rules that I live by. Rule number one, do the right thing. All right. Rule number two, do the best you can in the time you have. And rule number three, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And I just find it, you know, a great way to personally act and a great way to run a business. Makes you think about everything you're doing.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Great rules to live by. So thank you very much for that. Well, the other piece we'd like to start with is why. Why are you doing this? Why are you involved in this, John?
So about, 8-9 months ago, I got contacted by a gentleman off of LinkedIn, and he had looked at my profile, my background, and I've owned businesses and done startups and all sorts of fun stuff. And he said, you might be interested. I'm starting a company. And I said, you know, I'm always, somebody opens a door, I'll look in. What do you have going on? He said, a water heater. And I was thinking, oh, well, this is going to be exciting. You know, water heaters, I pay for mine because it runs all the time. And he started talking about the technology and his research. And Gordon had been doing this for several years, actually, and had brought the technology pieces together and was now ready to move that forward in a business manner. And the more he talked, and I was looking at the technology he had obtained the rights to use and the patents, I realized this is big. This is actually something I definitely want to be involved with. So, you know, I'd initially been sort of like a business advisor for him. And then as this got moving forward, he said, hey, I'd like you to be a co-founder and we can, you know, move this company forward. Gordon's CEO, I'm COO, and we're doing just that. We're moving the company forward.
There you go. So what is it exactly that you're doing? Water heating is responsible for what, like 18% of the average family's heating and hot water and overall energy bills. And so what's the technology? Tell us about this.
So this is it's a patented technology. We're working with one of the national laboratories. They've produced a foam, a graphite foam, that when in an induction coil is extremely easy to heat. And one of our initial tests of the foam, not even with a tuned induction coil, just basically something off the shelf, we were able to bring the heat of this foam. Think of pumice when I say foam. Don't think like sloppy, watery, but something solid with an enormous amount of surface area when you run water through it. When we put it in the induction coil, we were able to heat this from 75 degrees Fahrenheit to just over 500 degrees Fahrenheit in 3 seconds. And
wow.
this is at a very low energy usage. And that's the real intriguing part is, right now a hot water heater has an element and you run electricity in that and form a heat resistance. So you're dissipating the energy through heat over that surface area, one or more elements. We've got the ability to use 2 to 3 times less the wattage to heat this foam and pass water through this foam to allow it to heat it. So we're going to be able to reduce in two types of models, actually, an on-demand, a tankless water heater. So for those instances where it's just turn the faucet on and the hot water comes out, as well as a hybrid, which will be it's the same model using the same foam, but we will use a tank to actually store the heated water and then deliver, and possibly even sometimes the tanks cool off and it takes a little while for that water to heat up. We're going to be able to bring that water out of the tank right back up to the deliverable temperature that the end user is expecting.
Outstanding. So induction, talk about induction a little bit. We've done some previous podcasts about it, but just to remind everybody.
Sure. Induction is basically, it's a magnetic coil, and it basically alternates frequencies very quickly. And it allows the energy to be imparted into that foam in the form of heat. And this foam is very susceptible to those magnetic fields, and obviously to get to those temperatures very quickly.
Pretty incredible. So basically it's magnets that heat up this new foam, new type of material. Is that it? Is that what made it possible now?
Right. Well, we use the energy to create the magnetic field, and then it's the alternating fields that result in heat in that foam. So yeah, basically it's an electrical magnet. Yeah.
Wow, pretty incredible. So we've talked about it, induction stoves in terms of alternates to gas stoves for heating, which apparently is catching on worldwide. It's actually the way all the world chefs now cook on induction stoves, and the US is a little behind because we think that gas is better, but actually induction stoves, you can cook twice as much food in the same amount of time and have your kitchen be much more comfortable because you're not spewing all that heat into the kitchen environment. So it's pretty incredible induction technology and pretty amazing to see what you guys are doing with it. So, all right. So what kind of outcomes do you see this new product having, John?
We think actually it's going to impact in several areas. The product in particular, there's a lot of, as you just mentioned, the gas stoves and the induction. There's a lot of government, not mandates, but government programs to help incentivize people to remove their gas water heaters and get them off of that and onto electric. With ours, we're hoping to go from not just the energy savings that they would get moving to electric, but now be able to multiply that by 2 to 3 times reduction in the wattage, which means it would cost them a lot less. So we're hoping that people will have a obviously lower energy bill. We're also, in addition to the product, since we're starting a company, we've got a chance to really change the way the business is done. So this actually will be a subscription-based water heater. So we're going to lower the cost. The barrier to entry for most people is that big CapEx cost, that $1,500, or if you're looking at a tankless, $2,500 plus installation, plus warranty, that people want to do the right thing, but sometimes it's just not in the price range. They just don't have that money in the bank to go get that water heater. So we're going to drop the initial upfront cost for folks to help most people be able to get into this type of water heater. It'll be on a subscription basis. So monthly they would pay a subscription. We're also including a lot of sensors and data information that we're going to be putting into the hot water. So there's going to be a plethora of information the user is going to be able to get back from the app or from a web interface on what's going on with their water pressure, their temperature. Hopefully we can do some turbidity measurements, parts per million, and be able to give them real-time feedback on everything going on with their water inflow and heating and usage.
Fantastic. And do you have any idea about what the subscription is going to be?
We're looking about $20 to $25 a month. which we think will be offset, frankly, by the monthly energy savings on the hot water heater. The other part of we hope to really incentivize and change here is the plumbers we're going to work with. So we want to create a community of Torii plumbers to do the installation. Now think of something, and like I said, we're still working through our prototypes, but think of something about the size of a scuba tank. So this is not going to be enormous. This will be a one-man lift. It'll be a very simple install. It could easily mount on a wall. So now we don't have to really get into the earthquake proofing and a lot of the other local city requirements for water heaters. It'll also reduce that space in the garage. I know I hate losing a corner of my garage to my 70-gallon water heater. But we're going to incentivize our plumbers because typically the plumber's called when there's an issue. The water's leaking, or we've got a break in the main, or something isn't flushing right. So there's always a negative, and then the plumber gets called and then nobody talks to them until they're needed again. Well, we want to create a relationship between Torii the plumber and that end user. So we're actually going to take a portion of that subscription, and it goes back to the plumber every month. So with us lowering the barrier to entry, the costs, having the plumber in a relationship, because they will actually be getting part of that subscription revenue when our sensors detect an anomaly. So if we say, hey, we're going to be putting some AI in there, some analytics, we believe there's going to be a failure in this unit in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to go back to that plumber and say, hey, we're sending you a replacement, make an appointment with that end user, pull the old one out, send it to us, because we're going to refurb it and do what we can and put in a new one. So there's no warranty needed because we own it. So by paying that upfront onboarding cost and then the subscription, you don't have to pay for a warranty. You don't have to, be worried when it's going to fail, because hopefully we're going to be able to get in front of that and get the plumber out there beforehand, and also incentivize the plumber to stay in the loop, because they're going to have a recurring revenue. Not huge amounts of money, but you install enough of these, it hopefully will turn out to be a bit of an annuity for them.
Outstanding. Yeah, in the hot water business, so there's, as you say, there's sort of the high end, and then there's everybody else, and those low end electric coils, they use up to like 4,000 or 8,000 watts, depending upon the size you get it. So 4 kW, 8 kW, I mean, it's equal to the size of many solar systems. Just the water tank alone, it's pretty incredible. So, so the fact that you can reduce that by 2/3, and now with the technology you're installing, you can participate in some of the utility demand response programs. So when they're calling for people to reduce their energy consumption, you can just basically say, okay, we're going to turn off the hot water heater for a while, and then when you need it back, boy, that response time is so incredible. 0 to 500 in 3 seconds is amazing. Unbelievable.
We're also looking at including some technologies that will allow us to have the hot water heater talk to the grid, so that when the energy company says, hey, right now is a prime time for solar generation or wind generation or geothermal, depending on what is feeding the grid, we'll be able to heat the water in that tank then. So we're going to use the greenest part of the grid to go ahead and heat the tank, get it to the temperature that's needed, so that it's not, I'm not like that in my house now, and I have a device that lets me know when my hot water heater is heating while I'm asleep, and then about every 3 hours throughout the day, it's on and off, on and off. I'd much rather this type of technology where we can optimize that time to the grid when it's most beneficial for everybody.
Outstanding. Excellent. So far with the work that you've been doing, what kind of lessons have you learned, and what are you doing differently than you started out thinking you were going to do?
Lessons learned. Don't ever have a firm plan. That's definitely the first biggest lesson. It's, hey, start out with something, go for it 100%, but learn along the way and make the appropriate changes. Case in point, I mentioned earlier, we're doing a tankless and a tank. Well, we found out there's a lot of advantages. We were originally just going to do a tankless because we can reduce the energy, we can reduce that front end cost, but we found out there's a lot of advantages in terms of energy and communicating with the grid in having a tank. So that's why we're going to be doing the hybrid, as we call it, because it's not like the old tanks. It's going to include the Torii technology, but there's so many good things we can do, and hopefully also bring down the cost point on that product to make it even more accessible to more folks. So it's like rule number one, do the right thing. As we go through the whole process, what's the right thing? Do we need to make changes? And if so, where?
Fantastic. So we'd like to ask if there's a particular tool, a tip, a tactic that you found out that you think most people should know, but don't. We call them kind of a supernova, a big idea that folks really should think about, know about, but don't have any idea about.
Gosh, I don't know. I think I'm old enough to know that people know a lot of things. So, maybe not that they don't know about, but I would say, you bring your ideas to the table, and don't be afraid to bring your ideas to the table and present them and defend them, but then listen to the counterpoints, to the arguments, and get in the discussion with, there's a phrase I love, it's called, I prefer clarity to agreement. So I would rather be clear on what you're saying, or I can be clear in what I'm saying. I'm not trying to make you agree with me. But when you're clear, there's no resistance to the message. When you're trying to understand, there's no resistance. And it allows you to take things in differently and I think deeper. And then you can actually change your mind. Whereas if you feel like you're being confronted, sometimes you don't want to change the way you're thinking. But if everybody just brings their ideas and it's in order to be clear, fantastic. That has, I think, really has helped us navigate different barriers and ways to get around them.
Outstanding. Excellent. Well, in most of our careers, there's been this kind of down moment where, we were doing stuff and it just wasn't working out. We kind of hit bottom, and in that dark moment, we figured something out and it sort of took us in a different direction. Would you have a particular worst moment in your business or clean energy career? And if you care to share what that might be like and what you learned from it?
Well, I think I'm too new at Torii for that. Just, the several months. It's honestly, it's been one aha moment after another here, and it's been enjoyable. So nothing yet on that point.
Okay. Well, I'm your aha moment then. So go ahead. What was your biggest aha?
I was hoping and praying that, our ability to get the energy down would we could actually do that and get it down to where we wanted it. And a few weeks ago, our engineer was running the prototype, and we do have a tuned induction coil. It's patented, and they were able to run it at 120 volt, 15 amps, standard house current. Right now, a standard water heater is 240 volt, 30, 40, 50 amp circuit. So we're talking 1400 to 1800 watts on this. And I was like, that was we're there.
That's great.
Building on that.
Yeah, it's like 2/3 or 3/4 less than the average one, eh? So
yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Amazing. All right. Well, we're going to enter the Pulsar round, where we ask you a series of questions, and we're looking for your short, succinct, amazing, and mind-blowing answers. Are you ready, John?
I'll try to be short. That's not my strong point.
All right, here we go. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Before I went in the Marine Corps, this may sound a little trite, but my cousin looked at me and said, don't let them change you. You have a great sense of humor. It's something really important in life. And I never thought I would remember him saying that, but I have, and I realized how important that is to just be you, no matter where you are.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right. A personal habit that contributes to your success.
Tell the truth. And on the flip side of that is I kind of really expect that from other people. And it's a very debilitating thing when folks aren't truthful. It's hard. So I try to keep that foremost in front of me and expect that from other folks.
Outstanding. An internet resource that you think is worth listening to and paying attention to or watching, reading, I should say. So.
Oh, wow. I don't have a lot of time, honestly, to get out there and browse the internet for reading. Oh gosh. I mean, there's our website, toriway.com, but it's a good resource, but nothing's coming to mind. I'm sorry.
No worries. It's okay. All right. How about a book you'd recommend and why?
Oh, now I read this book and I get so much grief from my wife about this book. It's called Life's Matrix, a biography of water. And it's by Philip Ball, came out in 2001. It's about a 400-page book on the biography of water. But when you realize how unique that molecule is in the universe, it's mind-blowing. And this book is well worth the time on something as common and accessible to everybody as water. When you read this book, it gives you a whole new respect for just the fact that we're here and how much it plays into that. Our being on this planet, our ocean currents. I mean, he starts out the molecular and winds up in the, all of the ocean currents, the deep ocean and everything else. Wonderful book to read.
Wonderful. Yeah, water is an amazing thing. We're mostly made up of water, and it's an incredible molecule. It's just unbelievable. I mean, just what it does, right? So one of the few that when you freeze it, it expands.
It does. And I learned in that book why water is at its most dense just before it freezes, not when it freezes like other things. It actually becomes less dense when it's frozen. That's why ice floats.
Wow.
But he took that a little bit further and said, had ice not been that way, this planet would be a chunk of ice. It all would have frozen from the bottom up. So we wouldn't be here if water didn't act this way. And it's the only thing in the universe that does.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, right? So yeah, just amazing substance. Wow. All right. Well, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change one thing for everybody in the world, what would it be?
That everyone would be able to understand other people's perspectives and where they are in life and where they live. I've traveled a lot in about 20 different countries. And I think the biggest thing to understanding other people is to at least have a perception of walking in their shoes.
Nice. Very good. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we could only take the time to understand each other, right? Have each other's perspective. Fantastic. All right. Well, a lot of things going on with the world, not the least of which is, as climate scientists have predicted, we're seeing more and more unpredictable, more frequent and more extreme weather events. Out in your part of the woods, I guess, basically you got 60 wildfires currently raging. Over in this part of the world, here on the East Coast, we've seen Hurricane Ida do $50 billion damage and lose another 80 or so lives in the process. Extreme weather, flooding in New York and just north of New York City. Some friends of mine, colleagues, had 8 feet of water come up in their streets and 300 cars flooded away and people dying in their basements, and just these extreme weather events becoming more frequent and more intense. And would you have we call it a WTF or F moment, a weather time fudge, an extreme weather event that you lived through and tell the tale, or weather time fun and the most fun you ever had and the type of weather it was? Would you have a story you care to share?
Well, I've lived through, I was actually born in New York, raised in what I call Southern New York, so known otherwise as Florida. And a lot of New Yorkers down there. I've been through 5 hurricanes down there in Florida, and they are an incredible event. And I've lived through 1 typhoon when I was stationed in the Philippines. But the biggest, oh my gosh, weather event was, I love weather. And growing up in Florida, when I would hear there's a tornado watch, I would shimmy up our TV antenna, which they used to have back in the day on a house, and sit up there with my binoculars, sometimes in the pouring rain. And the very first time I saw a water spout forming over Tampa Bay, maybe, I don't know, not even 15 miles from the house, I'm watching this funnel cloud come down. And as soon as it touched the water, the funnel and the whole sky turned black. And the enormity of the power of that event hit me. And my respect for a tornado just, it's not a swirling wind. This is an enormously destructive, the amount of power just watching that happen blew me away. And I was probably 12, 13 years old.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah, quite the story. And glad you survived it and didn't get blown off your roof there, John.
Yeah, a little wet, but no worse for the wear.
Outstanding. Well, what's the one thing you're most energized about today?
Torii, by and far, I really think I think we can bring, it's weird, hot water is, a big change for people, but it can be, it can be the start. And we are starting with water heaters at Torii Industries. We are going to expand in the home and do what we can to help optimize other appliances. And there's a lot of room for growth in there. The business model that we can change. I had a business years ago, and it's the way business works. I was put out of business when the big guys got into my market. They got a better discount than I did. They could buy in bulk, and I had to close my store as a result. So, in talking to Gordon, that's how we came up with this. Let's have the plumbers share in. So we're not doing a discount price for the big box stores or over the little guy. Everybody's getting the same price. If you want to make more money, install more heaters, and just kind of levels the field for the folks that if you're going to do more work, you're going to make more money. It's not just because you got a big company you can outbuy over the little guy. We're going to put them on the same street, the same level playing ground right up front. And I'm excited about the technology, the energy, creating a business model that I think is fair. It's going to help the end user of the product actually save money over time. It's going to help the plumbers be engaged with that end user and become a partner. And, I think being part of Torii, we can help facilitate that.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, again, most people don't realize that just the hot water can be 20% of their energy bills for their whole home. So it's pretty incredible, and you're making a great dent in it, and cleaner, greener, more efficient. And sounds like great models. So, all right. So what's the next steps for you guys?
So we are currently, we've got prototypes built, and we're tuning and tweaking those. When we get our final, what we believe is our final step, proto will be going to certifications for UL and green certifications. And then by this time next year, we should be shipping product. We're currently in our seed funding round right now, talking to investors and to move the company along. And actually, it's going pretty well. So
outstanding. Excellent. Excellent. So piece of parting advice for folks. And if you want people to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Sure. Parting advice. Never stop learning, never stop growing. I'm in my late 50s, and, I love learning new things and trying new things. And, they don't always work out the way you want, but at least you tried. And I think that's important as people grow and get older, that there is no stopping. There is no stopping. And, we're at Torii Way. That's TORIIWAY.com. And the website's there. We have a contact form up there, whether it's an end user, a plumber, an architect, a green designer. There's a lot of folks looking at ways of building things more green. We would love to get in touch with those folks so we can start helping to architect, tomorrow's communities, condominiums, office buildings. There's a lot of places that we think this product is going to be a very good fit for all involved. So, we'd love to hear from everybody. If you have ideas, good, bad, or indifferent, we want to hear them.
Outstanding. All right. Anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. This was quick, but succinct and to the point. I love that.
Yeah, there we go. Always nice to have that, right? So that's the way you are as well. So it's great to have a common mind. So thank you so much, John.
Thank you for joining us today, awesome Earthkind people. Do you want to increase your climate impact by a factor of 1,000? Then pick up your phone today and call your United States congressional representative and both your U.S. senators and ask them to support the federal Build Back Better bill. Build Back Better will create the largest climate protection action in American history. Because so few people take the time and make the effort, our elected representatives interpret the opinion of everyone who calls or writes as representing the views of 1,000 other citizens. Congress will vote on the Build Back Better bill that aims to get our country to 80% pollution-free electricity by 2030 and cut climate pollution 100% by 2050. The Build Back Better bill provides tax incentives for solar, wind, energy efficiency, electric cars, charging stations, and more. And it will finally cut the subsidies for fossil fuels. It will also drive major investments into communities that have been disproportionately hit by environmental injustice. When you make the calls, spread the word via social media by posting images of a large red exclamation point using the hashtags Code Red Climate and Code Red Congress. You'll be joining some of your favorite musicians and celebrities, including the Dave Matthews Band, Dead and Companies, Billie Eilish, Melissa Eldridge, Phineas, Maroon 5, Brittany Howard, John Baptiste, Alex Benjamin, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jane Fonda, Mark Ruffalo, Damien and Stephen Marley, Group Love, Huey Lewis and the News, and many more. When the Build Back Better bill passes, the United States can enter the global climate negotiations on November 1st, with America setting out to cut climate pollution 100% by 2050 and be able to encourage other nations to do the same. If not you, then who? The time is now. Act now. Pick up the phone, call your congressional representatives and U.S. senators, and help create a better future for our children and all the 7 billion Earth-kind people on the planet. Thank you.